Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here. Today, found something very unexpected in building Christian character. I decided to read a little bit more today, though I normally wouldn't, since I had just done a video yesterday. But I thought with the section I was going through, there wouldn't be anything new. There wouldn't be anything that I really would feel like I gotta do. Something that maybe if I did come across, I could just work on the next day. However, what I came across kind of, for lack of a better word, gave me permission to do what I've been wanting to do for a while. There's one thing I've seen Blair Adams never really teach, but imply. And when I've seen him do this, it's been in his sermons. Particularly the ones I got to hear that are on their more private site. The password I got from one contact, they blocked it. And sadly, I should have thought of this beforehand, but I just started the channel and I didn't record them. I wish I had. But primarily in these sermons, I saw this implication, and it really bugs me because I never want to say anything about it if I can't show why I know they teach this or feel they're pushing this direction. Well, today I finally found it. I finally found a spot where Blair comes out and stately as clearly as you can imagine Blair would say anything. Which doesn't say much, but it's better than what I had. So, I'm going to read for you a part from page 213. Just more of what I've been saying this book is all about. Giving them power. So, here's what I want to show you. As children grow, full spiritual initiative in the fulfillment of responsibility precedes being set into their place, entering into their adoption as fully reliable sons. This happened to Jesus at his baptism, when the voice of the Father spoke, declaring, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." These words resembled the traditional ancient Jewish announcement whereby a father declared that his son had entered into the full rights of his estate, that he was no longer merely as a servant in his father's house, but now exercised the full authority and rights of the heir. This is the level of spiritual maturity to which God desires to bring his people, the level at which we meet all the obligations of our spiritual inheritance. There's a lot in this, a lot. But I think you can pretty much sum it up without too much effort. One thing that's interesting about this, I don't know if you noticed, but I want to point this out first. He doesn't give a reference. In this book, he has been giving references all the time, and usually at the end of each section, he will actually give the passage, whatever version he likes. But he does it. He does usually do it. Here, he doesn't give it here. He doesn't give it at the end of the section. He never tells you where this is, which immediately made me suspicious and concerned. But I don't know if you realize what happened here. But this is about us being adopted as sons. How we need to seek bringing ourselves to that point. So it's a goal we need to reach. Then he says it is what happened to Jesus at his baptism. I don't know if you caught it, but indirectly, this claims Jesus was not the Son of God until the baptism. Because that's when he was adopted. Here's the problem. They have kept this so well hidden. This even goes against a lot of what I've heard from certain oneness Pentecostals I've looked at. That's his background. That's where he comes from. That's where the rejection of the Trinity comes from. But from what I've read from different sites, heard from different speakers, different people, most I've seen who are of that sect, denomination, whatever you want to call it, will say, Jesus is God, Jesus is God, Jesus is God. They push that as the most important thing. And my concern has always been, Blair Adams doesn't seem to really follow their teachings because he doesn't seem to truly believe Jesus is God, but man with God in him. And one thing I've seen hints of, like I said, in his sermons, is this. He was man, did not have God in him until this baptism. I've seen hints of this in multiple places, and I've always wanted to share it, but I couldn't. Now he finally says it. Right here, he shows you. But notice what he does with this. First of all, this quote, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." I went through the Gospels, and that's not what I saw. Maybe there's another passage I didn't find, that places I looked for it didn't mention. Who knows why they left it out? I'm just going to say, I can't be 100% certain because I haven't had the time to go and look through every single translation, version, passage before I do this video. But everything I've been able to find, he does not say, listen to him. God does not end with that statement from everything I've read. It's there, it's there. But that caught my eye. Because like I said, he doesn't give you a version here. He doesn't even give you the reference. There must be a reason for that. I'm wondering if this is it. Is this why? If so, it really pushes the point I want to make at the end of this. Notice what he said at the end of this quote. This is the level of spiritual maturity to which God desires to bring his people. The level at which we meet all the obligations of our spiritual inheritance. It's making this to where there's multiple things you have to do to reach this level. Until you reach this level, you cannot have the inheritance. You have not truly become that Son of God. You notice the way he twisted it? He starts off, this is the level of spiritual maturity. Then says, the level at which we meet all the obligations. He changed it from a maturity, from a certain feature, certain characteristic, and makes it into a certain task or goal that you have to reach. Let's go back to the very start of this. And I want you to notice, particularly the part where I'm going to end it. As children grow, full spiritual initiative in the fulfillment of responsibility precedes being set into their place, entering into their adoption as fully reliable sons. This happened to Jesus at his baptism. So what happened to Jesus there is what's supposed to happen to us. Now think about that statement. When he quoted what the Father said, he put in that part that said, listen to him. That was not added there without thinking about it. That was not accidental. There's a reason he needed that part of the statement in there. It had to be there. He couldn't just go quoting one of the Gospels. What happened to Jesus, he's saying, has to happen to us. We've reached that level of maturity. We've reached that point where we now get to be a child of God, we now get to become this. We've finished those obligations. God now says, listen to him. They're claiming the same authority in their voice as was in Jesus's. More of making the body Christ. And pushing that now we must listen to the leaders of Homestead Heritage. That they have the authority of God now. He doesn't just teach this to get around the Trinity, to try and make sense out of it, even though he refuses to accept the Trinity. No. He uses this to take that authority, to get that authority, to have the same authority God was giving to Christ. Blasphemy. That's what Homestead is all about. Making themselves the body, thus making themselves Christ, thus making themselves God. To them, they have the authority of God. May their heresy come to an end soon. God bless.